Good evening and welcome to Wrestling Rewind. I am your host, Angel Amoroso. And this evening, we are going to have a title show, which means we are going to focus on a certain part of professional wrestling to rewind you back into to learn a little bit more about. And this evening, our focus is on animals used in professional wrestling. So let's start this off right away. Animals in professional wrestling and the usage of them has varied through professional wrestling history. Animals that have been used as opponents to humans in matches include bears, tigers, cheetahs, and orangutans. So, Chi Chi, Sasa Chi Chi was a tiger back in 1969 who often wrestled professional wrestler Stu Hart in matches there in Canada. And Terrible Ted was a bear, and his owner, Dave McGinty, would take him on tour to wrestle people for money. And bears have long been a part of professional wrestling, usually declawed and muzzled. They often wrestled shoot matches against audience members, offered a cash reward if they could pin the bear. They also wrestled professionals in worked, often battle royal or handicap matches, usually booked so that the bear won. I don't think they had to fake that. Wrestling bears enjoyed their greatest popularity in the southern United States during the 1960s and the 1970s. The wrestling bear of the time, Terrible Ted, was used many times for Stampede Wrestling and briefly lived at Stu Hart's home in Calgary while working for Stampede. So this bear worked for Stampede Wrestling in Calgary, where Stu Hart's son Bret Hart and his other children would sometimes play with the bear. So he was like a regular part of the whole dungeon there. Hercules, another celebrated wrestling bear, appeared with Terrible Ted in Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. After quitting in the sport, Hercules moved to Scotland and took up acting. He appeared in the 1983 James Bond movie Octopussy and was named Personality of the Year by Scottish tourist boards. So this bear got a lot of play. Teddy Hart, also of Stampede, was had a cat named Mr. Money that he involved in wrestling around 2015, and he would get tigers in Stampede Wrestling territory to perform in his matches. Sasha Chi Chi, which is actually the name of one of my kitties. So Chi Chi was performed partially as a publicly, like as a stunt for Calgary and Stampede Wrestling on behalf of Calgary Fish and Wildlife Association. Hart's daughter, Diana, also stated that he had a cheetah who he who he borrowed over to their home, the Hart Mansion, which he has had many planned wrestlers. So WWF champion Bruno Sammartino wrestled an orangutan in a match. The match lasted for about 15 minutes, with Sammartino earning $25 each 5 minutes he could last with the orangutan. Sammartino has expressed that he was under the impression that the ape would be a monkey, and that he only took the match because he was relatively desperate for money at the time, and as young newly debuted wrestler, he also stated that the match was very painful and unsafe, as the animal was not trained to perform wrestling at all, and it actually really hurt him. So Teddy Hart, the grandson of Stu Hart, has expressed interest in using animals such as cats, dogs in his matches, and he has on many occasions brought his cats to the ring with him. On the matter, Hart stated, "I'm training cats to come out to the ring with me, and I'm also training. I train animals to get involved in matches. I'm trying to get safety animals like dogs. to basically pull the referee's leg before the count of three, little things like that. Or, so it'll be a cheater, or my dog will carry a weapon for me and I will get the weapon off of his neck to use it. Potentially, if I had some female manager and she has a cat, and the cat may be good in some kind of way, getting a couple of kids out in the audience that I could lure into the audience, use them for a disqualification to happen so that I don't have to lose the belt or something like that. So they're actually making angles up and planning all kinds of stuff to use kitty cats and dogs and with women to get them over in their matches. Pretty creative. So in other gimmick matches, pigs or hogs were also used as part of a pig pen match, which is a match that takes place in a pig pen full of pigs placed near the stage. In 1999, the Big Boss Man wrestled Al Snow for the WWF Hardcore Championship in a Kennel from Hell match at Unforgiven 1999. The match consisted of a standard steel cage with the cell placed atop it, with the object being that the wrestler would escape from both the cage and the cell while trying to avoid guard dogs that were placed between the ring and the cell door. If you're afraid of dogs, this is a really bad match to be in. This specific match has been called one of the worst gimmick matches in the history of professional wrestling. Oh, wow. As the dogs showed no hostility at all towards the competitors and proceeded to urinate, defecate, and even mate outside of the ring while the match was going on. So that was probably a bad idea for them. And they would never do that again. I know when snakes were used at one point, I personally had seen a snake defecate all over the ring during a match. I won't mention who those wrestlers were because I don't want to embarrass them, but you know who you are. Next, moving on to animals and mascots, animals used in professional wrestling. The tag team, the British Bulldogs, consisting of Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid, had a bulldog named Matilda as their mascot. And when Smith returned to the WWF in 1991, she was replaced with another bulldog named Winston. Jake the Snake Roberts, of course, speaking of snakes, had a pet python named Damien, who was often involved in feuds and in matches. He would take the snake and throw it on people, and they would just freak out. It was one of the highlights of early animal use in professional wrestling, if it's just my opinion on it. And then we have the Birdman, Coco Beware, who came to the ring with the parrot Frankie on his shoulder. We all know about Coco Beware and Frankie. So parrots and snakes and bulldogs and bears, tigers, and oh my, it's like we're in the land of Oz here. Let's see. So there's also some camel wrestling going on, and that's sort of a weird thing to check out. The Hart Foundation was very close with the wildlife conservation and the pro wrestlers who owned the cheetahs in Tawana, and gave Hart and the Stampede Foundation permission to use them since the 40s, from what I'm reading. So that being just a little short wrap up of the histories of animals in professional wrestling for this episode of Wrestling Rewind. Hope you've enjoyed this just short little tidbit of knowledge to put there in the books. And hopefully you'll join us back for our next episode of Wrestling Rewind. We are here every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Monty and the Pharaoh Show YouTube and all of their other platforms that they have available. And soon to return, my partner, the Iron Man Tommy Cairo. And we will have coming back very soon. And until the next time, have a nice night and a nice life. Good night.